1659. We took a family vacation this year. My mom's relatives landed in central Maine in 1659. We were up there in the middle of nowhere in Maine. Beautiful country, right on the rocks and the black beaches and pine trees and mountains. The mountains spill into the sea in Maine. It's like being in a different world. There wasn't much going on. There was no cell phone coverage. There was no Wi-Fi. It was an old-fashioned vacation. So what we did is we went to the local public library, and I started researching my clan and the lineage. And it was unbelievable how well they traced back the Smith clan to Smith's Cove in 1659. It turns out they were prisoners that were so unruly in England that English soldiers their mission was to bring them over to Maine and drop them off and leave them there on the rocks because they kept escaping from prison and causing problems, right? So what happened? Something really weird happened on the voyage. You know, you got to think about when people made that voyage, it took months, right? Well, the Scottish, my relatives, the Scots were stuffed in the bow of the ship to live in their own excrement. No fresh water, no vitamin C, rampant scurvy. People watch their family members die on the voyage. And they get there, but here's what happened. More Scots lived than the Englishmen. You see, whether you were captive or captor coming to this country, it was equally a fatal journey for both. And it dawned on me. I said, I got to share this at convention. It hit me like a ton of bricks. If you're third, fourth, or fifth generation American, you come from badass stock. People that risk their lives to get here. Isn't it true? Isn't it true? Isn't it true that people still put their family members on an 8-foot boat from Haiti and Cuba, still try to get here? Why? Because of the fertile economic soil that we have in America. Because you can do anything that you want with a marketing plan and a product, and a will and a heart, anything. People are still risking their lives to get to this country just to have a better life. Guess what? Immigrants to this country become millionaires 9 times the rate of native-born Americans. Why? Let me tell you why. I got to use one of my guys from history to tell you why. Remember Houdini? Remember Houdini, the great escape artist? Now we have who? Chris Angel, okay? So Houdini was the first escape artist, and there was a jail cell built in one of the Carolinas. I forget if it was north or south, but they were so proud of their jail cell, they hired Houdini to come in to prove to everybody it was impregnable, unescapable. Nobody could get out of this jail cell, right? So Houdini gets in there, they put him in a straitjacket, they shackle his hands, they shackle his ankles, and they say, go to work. And the pictures are being taken, the reporters are there. His challenge was to get out of all the locks and get out of the jail cell. Well, he's doing his thing, and he's dislocating his shoulder, and he gets out of the straitjacket, he picks the locks, he's totally exhausted, he goes to pick the final lock to get out of the jail cell, and he's working on it for hours. Finally, he falls to his knees in complete and utter exhaustion, sweat pouring off of him, falls into the door. Guess what happens? The door pops open. How could that be? The door was so thoroughly locked inside his mind that he couldn't open it. I ask you folks, how many doors remain locked in your mind? Okay, I got this crazy brother-in-law named Angelo. I married into an Italian family, and Angelo is a structural engineer, but he's a savant in mathematics. So he actually went to the national sniper competition. He got into long-range shooting. I'm not into guns. I'm into jiu-jitsu. It's the opposite end of the spectrum. But I understand that these are pretty tough to do, these 500-yard shots, right? He was the only non-government agent or non-law enforcement person at the competition, and he got first place 3 years ago. National championship sniper, the most accurate person on earth at 500 yards. Listen, how many people love goals training? Nobody. It's boring, right? Goals, the Yale class of 1963. We've all heard it 100 times. I'm going to give you a 2-minute goal training that I hope you can remember for the rest of your life. I could teach anyone in this room to be a better shot than my brother-in-law Angelo in 2 minutes or less. And you say, well, gee, Les, you have lost it now. There's no way you could do that. Sure I could, provided I blindfolded Angelo and spun him around about 15 times, and then we started the competition. And you say, okay, Les, well, now you've really lost it. That's absurd. Well, how can he hit a target he can't see? How can you hit a target you don't have? How can you achieve a goal that you don't have? But the bottom line is, folks, we put way too much weight on where we've been. And it's not about where you've been. Your biography does not equal your destiny. Let's get started. Your biography does not equal your destiny. Okay? It's very important. I had some political aspirations young in life, and so I would go hear certain politicians speak when I had the chance, and I had the privilege of meeting Mr. J.C. Watts. who was a United States Senator at the time. And I got to the front of the line and I said, hey, Senator Watts, you know, how'd you do it? How'd you get out of the Robert Taylor homes? The Robert Taylor homes, for those of you who don't know, is on record. Most of them, if not all of them, have been demolished, thank God, but is on record as one of the worst public housing projects in the history of the world. I remember growing up in Iowa, visiting the art museum in Chicago, and we took a wrong turn, and we're going down Lakeshore Drive, and I peered off into the distance, and I saw these huge buildings with no glass and boarded up windows, and German shepherds with muzzles, and cops with shotguns, and then kids playing in glass, little kids in glass and rubble. It was like looking into a different world. I couldn't even believe it existed. Nobody gets out of there without a drug addiction or a bullet hole. But J.C. Watts went all the way to the U.S. Senate, Club 100, and I said, Senator Watts, how did you do it? How did you get out of the Robert Taylor homes? I'm fascinated to know. And he looked at me and he said, young man, I decided that I wasn't going to be a victim. The decisions, but the bottom line is, folks, our beliefs and our decisions are extremely influenced by what we are around. In life, you become part of what you are around. 2/3 of doctors in medical school acquire the symptoms under which they study because they're engulfed in it. We've done studies with school children. There was a group of Jewish school children with an IQ of 125, and they paired them up for 6 months with the European school children with an IQ of 95. At the end of 6 months, guess what their IQ was? 105. We become part of what we are around. Now, don't take that too literally, because in college I would have become a six-pack, a pizza, and a cheerleader. But be careful. You got to be a little bit protective of who you are. And when I get to the education part of what to expect if you're new here, or if you're old and you're resetting and you're getting new again, I want to remind you what to expect. The worst thing a company can do is tell you not tell you what it takes to succeed. Okay, we're going to tell you exactly what it takes to succeed. It's not your beliefs, your decisions, your biography. It's your rituals, your daily rituals, right? That's your daily rituals. Mike can look at you and in 5 seconds tell you what your physical rituals are. I can spend a couple of minutes with you and tell you what your nutritional rituals are. Okay, I can look at you and tell you what your postural rituals are. The number 2 reason people fail in network marketing is because they have the wrong posture. Your posture says a lot about your level of self-worth. If you don't think you're worth a happy, healthy, joyous marriage, you will do things in order to sabotage it subconsciously. If you don't think that you're worth 10 or 15 or 20 grand a month, you will do things to sabotage yourself in this business. I've been accused of giving people self-esteem calisthenics. Okay? Based on your posture, I know that you're going to need some self-esteem calisthenics if you have a bad one. It's very important to have the right posture. You got to commit to your goals. You know, growing up in Iowa, it was amazing. And it was cold winters, right, Lori? Where's Lori? Cold winters, right? Cold winters. But in August, it's so high, you can cut a hole in the air. 100-degree humidity, 100% humidity, 100 degrees, right? Well, in Iowa, on those hot days, when we'd be out in the country, we would find a well. And it was a dry well. So we knew that we'd have to prime the pump. And we'd have to get down there, and we'd have to start priming that pump and priming that pump. And sometimes you'd have to keep priming and priming and priming and priming. You never knew how deep it was going to be. You never knew how many times you had to pump to get the water out for that cold, refreshing water. And you were dying of thirst. You know what breaks my heart? I've seen people quit this business 2 inches from gold. I've seen people quit this business. All they needed was one more pump, and that water would have continually streamed out. Focus. People tell me all the time, Les, it sounds like a great business, man, but I don't have any time. Hey, Mike, I'd like to work out, but I don't have any time. It's not a lack of time that we have today, folks. Does he get 2 extra hours in his 24-hour day to work out? No. It's focus. I want everybody to look around the room. Just take 10 seconds and log into your mind everything that's green. Take 10 seconds, look around, log into your mind everything that's green. Okay, now everybody shout out every red thing that they saw. Right? We find what we're looking for. We find what we're focusing on. Gee, Les, I can't build this business, man. Everybody's so negative. Everyone rejects me. What are you looking for? What are you focusing on? We find what we look for. We find what we focus on. Okay? So important to keep that in mind. Take action. Mike talked about it. You know, this reminds me of a story. I grew up on the Mississippi River, and the thing floods a lot, right? Well, we had a flood one time, and there was a real religious man that lived by the river, and the flood waters were coming up fast, man. They were just coming up faster and faster and faster. Well, the fire truck drives by and say, hey, man, we're evacuating the neighborhood. Got to go. Come on, water's coming up. He goes, no. I have faith in God. I'm going to stick around. Don't worry about it. Water comes into the basement, into the first floor. He's now on the second floor of his house. A boat comes by. Right? Coast Guard comes by and says, got to get in the boat, man. The water's rising. Everybody's evacuated. You're the last one in a 1-mile radius. No. I'm a man of God. I have a lot of faith. I'll be fine. So now the water comes up. He's on his roof, climbs to the top of the chimney, just about to go underwater. A helicopter comes by, throws a ladder down. He says, hey, bro, last chance. Got to get in the helicopter. No. Man of God. I got faith. He's going to help me and save me. Waters come up. The guy drowns. He goes up there in front of St. Pete, and he says, St. Pete, what happened? He's like, well, I sent you a car and a boat and a helicopter, and you didn't respond. Now you're here. Folks, you got to understand that you got to take action in life. It's not going to just come to you. Break the cycle. What cycle? Jeez. Sit up, sit down, shut up, follow the rules. Love that, right? That's the cycle. Well, I also grew up when Johnny Gosh, the newspaper boy in Des Moines, Iowa, got stolen. Some scumbag took him and abducted him at 6 in the morning when he was doing his paper route. I had a paper route at the time. It put a blanket of fear in the country when Johnny Gosh was stolen from his parents at age 14. Well, then we weren't told to sit down and shut up and follow the rules and get in line like we were from little school children. That's a recipe for poverty, by the way. That's a recipe for poverty. I didn't do that so good in school, you can imagine, but I did it. But in sales and entrepreneurship, it did me a lot of good not to sit down and not to shut up and not to follow the rules. You know why? Because dead fish always follow the flow, and I didn't want to be a dead fish. If you don't think differently and act differently, folks, dead fish always follows the flow. In fact, crooked men are like crooked rivers. They always take the path of least resistance. Keep that in mind. Let me tell you, break the cycle. So what did that do, that blanket of fear after that horrible event? What did that do? That also told us not to talk to strangers. You can, listen, there's so many people that move in and out of this area in Florida, you can spend a whole day out in public and no one will look you in the eye. When I find someone who looks me in the eye and says, hello, I got a prospect. They got a life force. They're not afraid to actually make a connection. We're social animals. The human interaction is gone, is missing from our culture. Let's get it back. That's another thing we can solve with this company, okay? Break the cycle. There was a symposium done. This is a long time ago, guys. This was done in the early 90s, maybe the late 80s. To be invited to the symposium, you had to make $50,000 a month in network marketing. All the different companies, Amway, Nu Skin, Mary Kay, Herbalife, they were all invited. And the purpose of the symposium was to find out the best way to do network marketing. The best way to retail, the best way to recruit, the best way to train, the best way to hold conventions. All of that was discussed. They agreed on nothing. Everybody had a different idea on how to do it, except for one thing. The one common denominator they could agree on is that they spent too much time in the beginning of their business working with the wrong people. They spent too much time in the beginning of their business working with the wrong people. Folks, when you meet somebody that wants it as bad as you do, that writes their goal statements down, that comes to convention, that's on every single conference call without reminder, you have synergy. You have generational match. Those are the people, and only those people, that you spend your time with. Listen, I have a buddy I grew up with, and he's really smart. He graduated high school at 16, college at 21. He had his PhD by 24, and he's too smart to make money. I thank God every day I'm just dumb enough to make money. Maybe you'll catch it on the way home, right? But listen, he's very negative. He's like, Les, what are you going to do? You're going to go drink the Kool-Aid this weekend? You're going to you're going to go brainwash everybody to be successful? You know, those things don't work. And for years he's told me that, right? And so we clash on that. But he said, Les, I'm going to give you a nugget. I'm a structural engineer PhD, and I understand that planes that aren't used and maintained fall out of the sky more often than planes that are used and maintained. He said, Les, maybe you could share this with them, that homes that aren't lived in fall apart faster than homes that are lived in and cared for. He said, and don't forget to tell them that boats, that ships that stay in the harbor and the barnacles erode their hull because they're not used, there's no maintained. They become unseaworthy faster when they're not used, when they're not moving, when they're not doing what they were designed to do. We were designed to achieve. We were designed to move. We were designed to do those same things just like the boats and the planes and the ships. And guess what? We fall apart faster when we do nothing at all. The most dangerous thing you can do, and I see it every year, people get so excited, the patch, you go home, the most dangerous thing that you can do is nothing at all. That's the worst thing you can do, and that's a guaranteed recipe for you to fall apart. Okay, next slide. The triple F's, this is my favorite part of the speech. I believe that all of us were born with a Stradivarius. I talked about it. We were designed to shine our light so bright that other people would be attracted to it and that we might be able to help them. We all have that genetic, divine predisposition written into our DNA. Why is that such a foreign concept and sounds so crazy to so many people? Well, fear. Fear is the most destructive human emotion that we could ever have. Okay? John 10:10 says that the thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy your dreams and mine with his favorite tool, fear. Fear will keep you in the middle class. Fear will keep you from a happy marriage. Fear will keep you from building this business. If you don't identify your fears and single-handedly break through them, you're not going to grow. You want personal growth? You want big-time income? Conquer your fears. Last message, behind your greatest fear is your greatest gift. That's a separate training. Maybe we'll get into some other time. Forgiveness. You know what? This is a powerful, powerful word that I'm not qualified to even grab my hands around. We'll probably hear maybe Dr. Rouse talk about it tomorrow morning. But it's an unbelievable, huge word. Here's the deal. My wife and I had $100,000 stolen from us by an attorney, our attorney, 3 years ago. Oh, he's disbarred and he's on his way to federal prison, but that wasn't enough for me. I was mad. 100 grand, it's not the end of the world. It's a lot of money, a lot of cash, cold hard cash. It took me a while to save it up, right? I held that for a couple of years until I finally realized forgiveness had to happen. It had nothing to do with him. Had everything to do with me. You see, folks, the only thing worse than you being kicked, stolen from, violated, abused, hurt, the only thing worse is that we still give that person permission to stop our progress. We still give that permission to hold us back and prevent us from shining our light. We still give that person permission to stop us from reaching our greatness. It's not about them. It never is about them. It's about you. I wrote a letter I never sent. I started making good money a week later. Forgiveness, huge, huge concept. Keep it in mind. Is it holding you back? And I just have to leave one more thing with you guys, and I think it's probably the most important message that any speaker will ever give you, is that you're not going to get there without God. You might be able to make a lot of money, and you may be able to shine your light dimly, but you're not going to get there without God. That's it.
I came to dance, dance, dance.